He's been a lifeguard, he's been a swim instructor, he's been a sports producer, and now Evan West is the new weekend sports anchor here at News 2. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with him one-on-one. Put your memory hat on for me for a second, because the first time I actually met you was July 2nd. It was a hot, humid day in downtown Charleston. I just got off from work at Mark Street Deli, and I showed up at my very home for a big announcement. And you were there to cover the announcement of the establishment of the Pinkley Fund. Since then, I haven't seen you. Tell me, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Quintin?
I'm doing just fine.
It's good to see you.
Likewise. You know, I want to return you to June 17th because obviously that particular day changed our lives forever.
Sure did.
You posted a very somber statement on Facebook, and I guess it was after midnight or shortly after 1 a.m. on June 18th. And you basically said this: leaving MUSC Hospital and finishing up one of the most hectic nights of my young career, I am still in shock that someone could do this in a city as sweet as Charleston. You can smell the fear and anger of residents. I pray the man who did this is apprehended before he takes someone else's life. The scene at the hospital hit me home tonight. Tell me, what more do you remember of June 17th?
I'll take you back to the very beginning. And I remember I shot a River Dogs game that night. So just doing my normal sports duties, and then there was LaShawn, our assignment editor, and he said something about a shooting, and you think shooting, and you're like, all right, well, you know, it's just an act of vengeance. You know, somebody's going after someone. It's not this mass shooting. So it didn't really click. And then about 15 minutes later, see that it was 9 people are shot and killed. And at that point, it's like, forget everything you're doing, and let's go report this news and get it out. So, I grabbed my camera, had an intern with me, and we went down to the scene, which was still active. And at that point, the scene moved back further and further as there was a bomb threat, and they were looking for, the suspected killer. And then from there, I went to the hospital, and I didn't even know that I was surrounded by, the victims' family members, and they were all finding out that, their loved ones had been killed. And so it was a really just crazy night. And then you pair that with just exhaustion, right? Because it was such a long night.
Right.
And it took its toll. And then just in the days after that, it was really incredible, as you see, from one end of the spectrum to the other, from fear to just absolute and outpouring amount of love and support. It was insane.
Speaking of which, let's go back to June 27th. You also said this on Facebook, quote, yesterday I took off the sports hat to cover the Charleston church shooting. No, I did not cover the president's trip to Charleston, but I was privileged enough to tell the story of the passionate volunteers outside of Emmanuel AME. Put on your memory hat and tell me, what did that unity tell you?
Well, initially I was given the assignment, and they said, they're like, hey, there's a lot of people passing out water bottles. Go do a story on them. When you think about that, you're like, water bottles? Really? Where's the story there? But you go down there, and I was greeted with a hug from an absolute stranger. And at that point, it was like, okay, these people are really special. And it felt like 100 degrees.
Yes, I remember.
It was insanely hot, and there was thousands of water bottles, and Patty Byrne organized the effort. And I've become friends with her since. She's a great person, but it just kind of comes down to you just have to help out, and they did that, and I was privileged to tell their story. It was great.
Well, things are getting back to normal here in the Little Country. So describe to me the following in one word: Nick Price.
Nick Price. There's not enough you could say about him. He's a great kid. Comes from a great family. It was so awesome. Whenever I met him back in maybe March or April, probably closer to April, he was diagnosed 3 months earlier, and there was such an unknown ahead of the road for him. He did not know, were they going to remove this entire tumor from him? Would he be able to walk, talk, breathe, play soccer, which is his favorite thing to do? Would he be able to drive and do normal things that 16-year-olds do? And he just had this incredible attitude that was infectious. You met him, you talked to him, and he was just fine. He just had this sense of peace about him, which was really calming to everyone around him, especially his family. And so getting to know him, it was great. And his family was so nice and so helpful. And, in June, he underwent his brain surgery, and they got all of the tumor. And
thank God.
Well, it's incredible. A few months later, he's back in school, playing soccer, driving a car, chasing girls, doing all normal things that 16-year-old boys do. So, what an incredible kid.
John McKissick.
A legend. I wish I could have gotten to cover him. I was really looking forward to it whenever I took this job covering him because people all around the country know his story.
Right.
You know, he's the all-time winningest football coach, any level of football. So whenever he decided to hang it up, I mean, you're a little bitter, but it's like he's pretty entitled to. The man has been doing it for 6 decades.
Right.
So at that point, it's like and his grandson Joe Call's been really nice. So hopefully John McKissick will hang around the program and the success will translate.
Monty Lee,
another great guy. I wasn't here for very long before he left, but he was really nice to me. He always answered my calls, and he's just a good low country boy.
Yeah. Virginia Tech versus Ohio State.
Oof, I didn't get to watch as much of that game as I would have liked to, but man, Ohio State has a problem, and it's a good problem to have. They have 2 good quarterbacks. And such a great coach, and you know, they started off so well, and you thought they were going to blow the socks off of Virginia Tech. And their socks stayed on, but they still beat them pretty good. And they have some things to work on. But Ezekiel Elliott, that running back too, that they have a ton of weapons.
Yeah.
They're going to be tough to beat this year.
Speaking of which,
USC. Well, we're glad they pulled it off last Thursday night, unless you're a Tar Heels fan. But you know, I don't know. I didn't know what to expect going into this game because they were pretty bad last year when it came to defense. Their defense looked really good, and their offense, you know, couldn't do a lot of things. But when it came down to it, their defense won the game for them, and it goes back to the old adage. You know, they say offense wins games, but defense wins championships. And what do Gamecock fans want?
Yeah.
They won a championship. So
that's
it.
Yeah. Best of West.
The best of West. It's just something fun, you know. I think sports should be fun. News can be so doom and gloom, not every day, but still, it's just a funny way. I like to talk with the people up here, and it kind of gets the chance to get the anchors involved, Kyle and Megan, and so it can be funny, and it can also be the worst of West if it's something terrible, in a funny way. Still, though. It's always funny.
It's fun, yeah. Speaking of Kyle and Megan, as you know, the new anchor team is in place here on the weekends, and I saw the new promo. Number 1 at 6 on Sundays.
Number 1 at 6. How about that?
I know, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
I have a favorite here when it comes to news.
All right. Don't hold back.
Right.
Yeah, we're proud of it. You know, I've been here for 6 months, and we've had some changes, but you know, we bring our best on the weekend. Our weekend producer is great. Our weekend director is great. I mean, from the top down, everybody works hard on the weekends to bring the best news we can to the Low Country.
That is awesome. Well, fill in the blanks for me. Starting at Channel 2 on March 9th was
exciting. Well, the first day was boring. First days are always boring, right? You get in, you get your handbook, you go over all the things. But day 2 was fun. We went live for the first time ever. And the weeks after that, Walter Scott, there's so many national stories going on, which I don't think normally do happen here in the Low Country, you know. But it's been a whirlwind since. It's gone quick.
Leaving KPRC-TV in Houston was.
It was sad. I had a lot of friends there. I kind of grew up there. I interned there. I freelanced there in college, and then I went back after college, started part-time, got full-time, just kind of rose my way up the ranks, and so it was hard to leave those people.
Yeah, Westbrook Senior High School.
It was fun to leave that. I was excited about college.
Speaking of which, Lamar University.
Lamar University, go Cardinals. You say Peckham. Lamar was great. I'm a 3rd-generation Cardinal. I'm very proud to have gone there. Great people there. We have some famous alumni in the business.
Yes.
Bill McAtee, who works for CBS Sports. He does the Masters, things like that. So it was. I learned from a lot of great people there.
Being a lifeguard and a swim instructor was.
It was good. It was really good. It was really rewarding. I really developed my work ethic doing that.
Really?
I mean, you can't mess around when you're sitting on a stand guarding kids' lives. So you have to take life seriously.
Sure do. Well, Evan West in one word.
Evan West, I think he is. That's a tough one.
Okay.
It's a tough one. I'd say mysterious. But fun.
Yeah, you are, man. Well, Evan West, this was so great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Quintin.
I appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.